living sober, busy living sober, busy living sober. Everybody that's here for the first time, I'm Elizabeth Chance. I am a certified health and wellness coach. I am a life coach and I am a certified recovery coach. And if you're back visiting again, welcome. So glad you're back. And I'm so excited to introduce our guest, Dr. Esther Zeledon. I tried to say it with a Spanish accent and I couldn't do it very well, as you guys can all tell. It's like I'm the worst, right? Hi, Esther. How are you?
Hi, so good to be here. I'm doing good.
I'm so glad you're here. I'm so excited to have your message go out to all my listeners and all your information. It's so exciting. It's she's in the DR right now. And for people who don't know what that is, it's the Dominican Republic. And I love the DR. My son loves it even more than I do. It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. But thank you for saying yes for coming on and thanks for reaching out and everything else. And I was looking at your website and at your Instagram, and I'm like reading through. I'm like, she's an entrepreneur, she's a coach, she's an international development professional, she's a mom, she's a mentor, she's a former diplomat, which I want to get into that. An extreme. What are you? An extreme. What did you say? I can't even read my handwriting. Travel guru, dance queen, and a scientist. And she's also a partner. I did have to ask her that because she has a picture on her website with her hugging this man. And I'm like, he's pretty cute. I wonder who that is. And then I asked her, I said, who is that? And she's like, that's my husband. And I said, isn't it ironic? She didn't say she was a wife or partner. I'm like, isn't that funny? We forget that. That's just right there in front of us, don't we? Those things to be grateful for that are
Yeah.
right there, that are glaring at us. And we're like, I don't see that. And then you're like, oh my gosh. I have this life. So tell us about a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's so funny that you brought that up. I was like, now I'm gonna go add it on to my to my profile. Um, yeah, so my story is, if we have to go all the way back to my story to like when I was like actually a toddler. So when I was a toddler, I was given 3 weeks to live. Okay. Yeah. I had this from my urethra and I couldn't urinate, so my whole body was yellow. And my parents thought I was gonna die. And so they went to, this is in Nicaragua, right? So they went to Costa Rica, they went to Honduras, all the best specialists. At that time, my parents had like good jobs and everything. And no one could find any, like they couldn't figure it out. And so they said only in Miami could they do something about it. Now, for context for everyone, if you go international to Miami, even back then, you have to pay cash, right? And even the currency exchange is ridiculous unless you're very, very wealthy. So they were like, that's not an option. But my dad is he's not religious, but he's spiritual. So he was like, well, he told my mom, I want to play lottery. And they played and they win. And that saves my life, right? And so they I went to Miami for months, got the surgery I needed, and I survived. Now, what that did to me though, so it's great, I survived, but then when we came back, there was a civil war, and then all of a sudden everything changed. A dictator came, and all of a sudden my parents lost everything, right? Like their house became valued pennies. Everything they had built gone, right? And so we had to immigrate. And when we immigrated, then we're poor, right? And working class. And that's how I became, and part of the description is I became like coupon master, traveler, because it was survival, right? And so like I would try to help my parents in any way. But that's how that thing had that indirect effect, because then I felt that it was my fault that they were struggling, because had they not won the lottery, right, they would have had money. They could have invested in different things that would have set them in a different track, right? Maybe mentorship, maybe some other situation and circumstances. But instead, I felt, wow, this was the trade-off. So that led me on a path that I felt that I owed. I didn't want to be a burden. So I had to be the perfect child and the ultimate people pleaser. So, and the achiever, right? So, and this is what I love about your podcast, because in a way, I became addicted to achievement, because I felt that that was the way out. And I felt also that was a way of not being a burden, right? Just constantly achieving, constantly fixing everything for everyone else. And that is how I'm going to be helpful in this world, right? And so I went and, I got the best grades, got the full ride to, the top university, went to graduate school, took care of my brother since I was 10, took him in every summer, raising mentoring, coaching everyone around me to get them, solving everyone's problems, even worked 6 jobs in college, right? And I was always busy, busy, busy and hustling, hustling, hustling. And I kept on being like, well, when I get here, and it was always like, when I retire one day, that is when I give myself permission to think about me and my happiness and joy.
Mm.
And I remember I climbed the ladder, oh, and this is the other thing. That's why I have like, we'll get later in my book, but I also have this thing about chasing the American dream, because in a way, that's what I did. I was addicted to chasing the American dream, and that was like, not just for and it wasn't really for myself, right? It was that I needed to do it for my family and everyone else around me. And so then it got to a point where I even, it has fixed metrics and timelines. So I did get married once and it didn't work out because I was just trying to do it before 30, right? Because that's what they
Yeah.
tell you, get married
Mhm.
before 30.
Mhm.
And the same thing, I was all the check marks. I was like, I have to do this by this time and I have to do this because that is what society tells you to do. And I remember waking up and I remember being the first to get divorced. That was my first awakening because I was like, I don't want to be married, and I need to like push out of this. And I had to get the courage to do that. But I was still, even though I freed myself from that, I was still chasing, still achieving, still workaholic, and still going like, well, when I become a director in my job, that is when I can be authentic. That is when I'll be able to be myself and all this stuff, right? So then I get to that position and great, I did give a lot of impact, whatever, but I found myself like, wait, now, and at this point, I've met my husband who I have now, and we like he's my soulmate, it's great, but I was sitting there going, why am I still not happy? I'm like, I have this job. At that time, I had the 5-bedroom house, the 2 children. I'm like, our marriage is great. I have a great salary. I have all this stuff. And I remember even talking to my friends, and everyone was like, no, and I thought about this when I read your description, because I would talk to, my friends, my coworkers, and they would all say, "No, you're exaggerating. You have everything. You just got to be grateful for what you have and all stuff." And I'm like, something's not right. Like I just know it. Like there's something that doesn't feel right. I feel suffocated in my own life. Plus on top of that, right? Even though I had all this stuff, I had like a mountain of people who depended and relied on me. So then I decided, I got to a point where I had this best friend and I started to be like, well, you know what? I'm going to tell her everything about everything that I love, and the things I would love to do if I was free, right? If I had freedom. And we start sharing and I'm like, I would love to open this business and start a movement and everything. I've helped everyone else, create their own limitless lives. I would love to do that more global and all this stuff. And then she stopped and asked me, well, why haven't you thought about that for yourself? And I was like, "Oh, no, no, no. I don't deserve that." And then it was a lot of work on like, why don't I deserve that? And she helped me go on this journey, but still in my mind, I was like, "Oh, this is great. This is information I'll use 10 to 15 years from now." But then all of a sudden, she started getting all these migraines and she had like a lot of headaches, and she told me, "Oh, the doctors told me I have something there that I have to get operated." And she was like, "Help, I need money." And I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna help you fundraise for this." Right. She was my best friend. I'm gonna help her fundraise for her surgery. We fundraised, and I was like, okay, I saw her on a Thursday, and I'm like, okay, I'll see you on Monday after you rest. And we were really close. So her daughter came over the weekend. And all of a sudden, her daughter's running out the door, and I'm like, "Where are you going?" Oh, because she's a teenager, and I'm like, "Oh God, where's she going?" And she's like, "No, no, no, my mom's not doing well." And then she goes and she comes back and she's like, she didn't make it. And for me, that's when I hit rock bottom, because it was the first person that I was fully authentic to in a way. You know what I mean? Like, and and it's funny because I at that time, my husband was my partner, but like I mean really authentic. Now we're like super authentic with each other, but this place where I could tell her my visions and my dreams and everything was all holding, and we were going to do it together. And when she passed away, I didn't know what to do. I was like, is this what do I do with that? The one person that like I could feel like, understood me was gone. but and so that took like I hit rock bottom and I was like, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I want. And then I was like, and I was so angry for her, right? And like I went to her funeral and I was so angry because at her funeral, everyone was, talking about their own death and mortality. And I'm like, why aren't we celebrating her life and her impact? Like she was so selfless and all these things. And then I start to think about, wait, what is my legacy? What does that even mean? And how do I and if I don't go after this, I'm not really honoring hers either, right? It's these people here didn't honor it. I know her dreams and she didn't get a chance to share it with the world. So after that, I don't know, it was like an awakening. And I decided, you know what? I'm gonna go after it. And so I decided to turn my whole life upside down and do that work that I was doing for everyone else for myself. And I know that sounds strange, right? Because everyone's like, well, you were coaching everyone else, but that was kind of easier for me. But to actually do it for myself and give myself that permission, that space, that was really difficult. But then when I finally did it and then took that courage to be like, okay, I'm going to now do it and do it scared because everyone around me said I was crazy. They're like, no one gives up this job. No one gives up this life. No one gives up the American dream. You're going to come crawling back. And they all kept on saying, like, well, it's okay. If you go for a year, don't worry. This will still be here a year from now. Oh, wait. What is the, I think you can still come back in 5 years. And all stuff. And I was like, I can't think about it that way. If I'm going for it, it's like, I have to believe it'll work and just do it. And when I did it, I knew nothing about entrepreneurship. I knew nothing about social media. I knew nothing. And I was like, well, I'm going to take, just like I take on every other challenge I've had in my life, instead of using it on the achievement side, actually, instead of chasing an accolade, I'm chasing my limitless life. And let me break it down. Let me think about it in 5 years, step by step, consistency, and really believe I'm going to make this work. And I did make it work, and that's my thing. So once I already always knew I could do it for other people, right? But once I was like, I did it for myself is when I wrote my book, because now I'm like, wait, now that was like the ultimate full circle moment for me. I was like, well, I always knew I could do it for others, but I am the true test if I can do it for myself and really know what it is and what it takes. And and for me, books, when I was a teenager with no money, I went to the library and books were my inspiration, right? That's how I could figure out what's possible, what's out there, and inspire that, I could do more and be more, right? I mean, I interpreted it in the American dream sense, but it still gave me a lot of inspiration. And I thought about it, man, all the books talk about purpose and your limitless life and all this stuff, but no one tells you how to do it. What are those questions? What are those steps? What does it really take? And so I was like, I'm going to fill in that gap and give everyone the full how. And I remember everyone telling me, that's crazy. You should leave some of it out because then that way they work with you and you can't give away all your secrets. And I don't see it that way because to me, it's a movement, right? I want to see people make their limitless life. I want to see people have that vision of whatever it is and show them that it's possible. And I want it to be worldwide accessible, not because you can only have access to me or because you can only afford, a 20 something dollar book, right? That's why for me the Kindle will, or the electronic version will always be affordable because it's about accessibility, right? And it's about sharing information resources that can change the world. And that's how I came full circle to where I am now.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. For one, you guys, you can't, if you're only listening and you're not watching this on Zoom, on YouTube, you'd see me crying because when you mentioned your best friend, what was her name?
Her name was Rita.
Okay. Hi, Rita. We know she's watching us right now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh. So many amazing things that you said. And I've been sitting here taking notes. That's what I do. I'm like writing notes when you were speaking. And I think that American dream that you talked about, like how amazing it is your parents brought you to Miami and you got better. And that American dream, it's kind of fallen by the wayside today. And nobody
Yeah.
talks about that anymore. And that dream we still have to believe in. And we still have to bring it back because it's there, because I feel like people like you, and I know that luckily I live close enough to Miami that I know the people there are so passionate about keeping this country like it was instead of where it's been going in the last, with this most recent president who is in office right now. And it's been so painful because people don't know how hard you came from a place where somebody came in and said, okay, your to your parents, they had this life, and then said oh, we're going to take it away right now. And your parents are like, what? And they'd worked so hard. And because people have history, that's why I love what's going on right now with like Tucker Carlson going over to Russia, because he's taking, he's so brave and he's sharing these stories that we all need to hear because it's truth. And you are a warrior, and you are such a great example and so strong. And your journey, just I just see so many examples of like God, and how like your life is just like everything just keeps, I mean, getting better and better and better. And what was the American dream? Will you tell the listeners, if they don't really know, because they've been so fortunate to be able to live here their whole lives, that they don't understand what that really means? Will you tell us what that is?
Yeah, and I think and the reason why I have that phrase crossed out and I have creating your limitless life is because it's been tainted. It's like what you said, right? So I think like if you look at the actual definition of the American dream, it's really is about opportunity to create some whatever you want. Now, society then has distorted it completely and made it around timelines and metrics, right? Getting married before a certain time, having a job by a certain time, having a big house or having a fancy car, right? But that was never the essence of it. The essence was all about creating opportunities to create, right? To create whatever your dream is. If you actually look at it, that's what it says. It's not have a marriage by 30 or have the perfect picket house or have the fancy Lexus. It doesn't say any of that, right? That's people using it to market, right, their own advantage. And so in a way, that's the problem that happened to me right at first. It's a double thing, right? Because in a sense I did get those opportunities, right? I did get those opportunities to hustle, to figure it out, to do all those things, but the timelines is what stifled me, right? So my whole thing is like, let's take the greatness from that original intent of that definition about opportunity, and now let's redefine it, right? And that's my thing that I'm pushing. Let's redefine it instead and make it about creating your limitless life. Okay, let's not make it about one cookie cutter dream for all of us, but the real intent was for all of us to create our limitless lives, and we have the opportunity to do that. And especially in the States, you have every opportunity in front of you to do that, right? And some other places, there is no freedom of thought. There is no freedom of economic movement or opportunity or even working remote. Like, and I see myself in that. I can tell, and I'm very cautious about that. Like, I know that I can create my limitless life faster than other folks because yes, I can be remote. I have access to things and freedom or podcasts, right? That maybe some other countries don't. But I still argue that wherever you are in the world, you can create this because that old definite the one that gets twisted is actually not just even in the States, it's worldwide.
Mhm.
That's why you see people immigrating from all types of countries looking for, chasing that materialism thing, while instead it's like, hey, what if you built something where you are? We're always trying to run away to somewhere else. What if we actually stop and we think that that other place is going to solve our problems? But actually, what if we stop and try to create when we want to create where we are in the world? And now that we're becoming more, with technology, more worldly, right? Anyone can open a YouTube. There are more opportunities for you to express your thought. And it's not just about chasing money and the consumerism, right? It's really living your purpose. It's we all at some time when we were children, we all wanted to change the world. We all had these amazing dreams. We all had this fire, and then society has like dimmed that out. And I've seen that everywhere I've traveled. Everyone has a purpose, everyone has a mission and vision. And it's like we need to reignite that with everyone. And I really think if we do that, it's going to end, right? The violence, the judgment, these fixed timelines and metrics, and we'll actually like appreciate and empower everyone to reach their highest aspirations and wherever they are in this world. Most of the time, it's not about I've seen it. I've never heard someone, they might say, I want to be financially stable, but it's really about, I want to change this in the world. I want to see this impact. In your funeral, it's not about how much money you make. No one says that. No one's like, I want to die with green bills all over my casket. No, people say, I want there to people remember me as someone who did X, Y, Z. Those are actions. Those are impacts. That's how you show up every day. That's how you're helping someone every day. And that's why a lot of my work is like, let's go deep into the legacy obituary, because you're going to see that it's not really about the things that you're chasing that were being sold. It's about how you want to be remembered and the impact you're making. And that you don't have to wait to when I, if I, you can do that today, and you can start now.
I love everything you've said. I just find like, so I've, again, so many questions. So, you just mentioned in your story how you had so many naysayers around that were like, don't do this, don't do that, putting this fear in you, right? Saying, you can't do that. And so many people today have so much fear that they're reaching for alcohol, they're reaching for these drugs that are killing our society all over the world. And instead of going to those naysayers that are saying, you can't, where did you find, if you could explain in words, the courage? Where would you identify that came from that gave you the ability to say, all right, I hear all of you respectfully, but I am going to do this anyway?
Yeah, I think one is changing my mindset that everything they're saying is the projection of their own fears. And I
Mm.
think I had to sit with that first. That I was like, this isn't what they're saying, is not about me. It's everything they've been instilled in them, all the fears, everything they've been told. And so their automatic thing is to tell you and to regurgitate everything that has been said to them. So at first it's realizing, okay, it's not that they're doubting me. It's just that they're projecting their own fears. And then in a way, sometimes it's out of good intentions. They would be scared if they were to try the same thing. And so they're just trying to watch out for you. And fear has, some fear is good. Some fear is good because it's kind of like your survival mode of telling you, be scared of this, be not. But when it starts to take over our other voice, which is our other voice going, I can do that. I'm meant for that. I can change that. I know I'm meant to be there. We need to have that voice stronger, because that other voice, even in our head or others, is always going to be there. And we have to make the other one so much louder. And what helped me was really understanding, one, that it wasn't about me. And two, when you're trailblazing, when you're the first, there's no one around you that's going to be like, yes, I'm taking you along, right? You're the one bringing everyone along. And I started to see that in my life. I was like, wait, let me look back. I was, when I went to like the school with the scholarships, right? Then everyone was like, "Oh, help me, help me." And at first they were like, "I don't know, that's impossible, Esther. You're not going to do that." I went to largest high school. They're like, "That's too far fetched." But once I did, everyone was like, "Help me, help me, help me." And then I was like, "Okay." And then the next phase, right? They were all doubting it, but then afterwards they're like, "Help me, help me, help me." And I started to see this trend. And I'm like, wait, I'm trailblazing. So of course there's not going to be anyone in front of me doing it, anyone in front of me cheering you on, because you're the first one trying and getting out there. So when I start to see that, okay, everyone is naysaying it, I'm like, well, this means that I got to do it, because they're all scared too, and so I need to do it. I need to go after it and show it. Another thing too is realizing, sitting with your uniqueness and your value and owning it. And what I mean by that is really analyzing, what is your unique value add. So I'll give you an example. Like, I can even do that with you, right? So if you had unlimited resources in the world, what problem would you solve?
Me personally,
Mhm.
oh, gosh, I would really this whole thing with addiction, I would if I could go and tell every person that they have to know, for one, alcohol is bad for you. All of these are painkillers, they're all lies. And if I could change that and let people know that there is an alternative, and yeah, it's not easy, right? It's not easy feeling all these feelings. Like your whole life, you were describing how you felt like, oh my gosh, my parents lost everything because of me. They didn't get to go. It was all put on you. But even though you had those feelings, you did it anyway. anyway. And these people that are growing up in families where that's all they can do is reach for these painkillers outside of them to fix their broken hearts, to know that they are not alone and they can do this. It's not a
It's,
question of no, it's a question of yes, and having that empowerment within themselves.
yeah, it's beautiful. And so how, if they gave you like all this money and they're like, I love that, and I want you to scale that worldwide, how would you do it?
I don't know that money does it, unfortunately. I will tell you that when they started the 12 the AA, the 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, Bill Wilson, who was one of the founders, went to Rockefeller and said to him, "Will you give me money?" And he said, "If I give you money, it's just going to ruin it. It's a spiritual thing." So I feel like that's what I do with this podcast. I want people to realize that this is a spiritual thing. This is not something you can go buy somewhere. There's rehab facilities, there's therapists, there's all these great resources out there. But and I was going to ask you this, like, until you find it within yourself, that spirit of knowing that you use the word, the voice, that voice is louder than the naysayers and the people that are saying, no, you can't. You aren't allowed to do that. You're going to fail. This is horrible. This is terrible. Like, I had that in my journey. I had people that were not like, oh, I'm so proud of you. I'm going to have a party for you. No, they were like, you're crazy. What are you doing this for? People don't talk to me. They don't invite me to things, but that's okay because I'm going to keep going anyway.
I love that. So that question on the how, no one answers that the same. No one. So like your answer is the first I've ever heard that way, right? And I've heard thousands of answers, right? But that's what's beautiful. That's your uniqueness, right? That's what makes you you, and the power and the impact. That's how you're having this impact on this podcast and everyone you touch, right? I'm sure that if I give you the homework today to reach out to 5, 10 people that you've impacted in your life, your whole life, they're going to repeat a lot of what you just told me, that you help them find themselves, that courage inside, right? All that stuff. And that is how you amplify that voice. Because when you own that your how to is only yours, like yours alone. So only you can make that impact. And you can, that's your gift that's been given to you. You can do that. Then it's like, no, I don't need to hear anyone else because they all have a different how to. They won't understand your calling. They won't understand that because they have different gifts to give. They have different reasons why people go to. It's like why you have different friends and you go to them for different things. So the more you own your own power,
Mm,
the easier it becomes, to then be like, I don't need their validation because I know my power. I know why I'm on this earth. And then it's just creating that toolkit resilience. Like you said, it's not easy. And every day you have to counter those voices, but how you counter those voices are unique to you. So like I have this thing like, what did you overcome and how? Because everyone overcomes it differently, right? Like I overcame depression. I didn't mention this, but at 16, like I tried to take my own life away because there was just so much pressure to be perfect, people pleasing, everything that at one point I couldn't be. And I was like, I'm letting everyone down, right? But the way I overcame it is different than other people that have overcome depression, right? But so I use what helped me and I incorporate that in my everyday. And I don't hit rock bottom anymore. But it requires me every day. I haven't had a depressive episode in a very long time. But it's not because, oh, I overcame it. It's because every day I intentionally, like I do the thing that helped me before. I don't wait to rock
mm,
bottom anymore. It's in my daily intentional practice, right? It's a commitment. It's like an intention that this is how I'm going to live and this is how I'm going to be.
I love that because that's how I wake up every morning and I meditate and I get quiet and I go and I ground myself. And again, we live in places we're so lucky that we can go outside and walk in the grass any time of year and not be freezing cold. But having that intention and just saying, God, thank you so much and let me be what you want me to be. And it's given me this life that is just beyond my wildest dreams, right? And you use the word easy. And I don't know when life became such a place that everything had to be so easy. And people use the word hard. It's like, this is so hard. But you think about it, like what your parents endured was really hard. Okay, let's face it, that was really hard. I mean, not having any money, having people take away everything that you owned, and I mean, I can't, I mean, even like, I'll think of something small that somebody took from me and that feels devastating. But to think everything, that is hard, right? I mean, that is really hard. Carrying water to give your children water, that is hard. This is not hard like that. And we want to make everything so like, I don't know, because you can get on a plane and go from one place to another place very quickly. And that gives you the ability to say everything like it's come on, everybody. We got to wake up again and get back to basics.
Yeah, no, we live in a society with instant gratifications, right? But there's something powerful about delaying the gratification
Mm.
and rewarding yourself. Like even part of, I wake up as part of my intention. So part mine is I wake up and read my testimonials every day, and that helps me get into a positive mindset. Like this is why I'm here, right? I'm helping people, but in a way that's aligned with me, not helping what I choose to help, right? But that helps me get that mindset. And then I also, do breaks and stuff. But I think it's like oh man, I lost my train of thought. What we were talking about.
We
But
were talking about like life being not we use
oh
this
yes,
word of
yes,
being
yes,
hard. And is it
yes.
really? I mean,
Right,
is it hard? Let's be honest.
right.
I mean, what
That's
is hard? Like, let's be
yes.
honest. That's what I'm trying to say is like explain to people
Oh,
out there. They're like getting
yes.
sober is I've had so many people that have
Yeah.
said to me, Esther, it's just amazing that you got sober. It must have been so hard. Now, was it hard? It might have been uncomfortable, uncomfortable feelings
Yes.
have
Uncomfortable.
it's been uncomfortable, right? Having to change everything, not going to the same places I went for a long time, not hanging out with the same people, not ordering or bringing things in my home that I used to bring into, realizing that I didn't need a painkiller anymore, that I could sit with these emotions and know that feelings aren't facts, are they?
Exactly. No, 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 I got it back now. Thank you. But it's true. Like we want instant gratifications, but the thing is we don't realize is that it's hard to be in misalignment. And
Mm.
it's hard to be in that because you're constantly, the thing is, even when you're in those behaviors, right? Like I was addicted to work, right? And the thing is, I wasn't happy then. You know what I mean? Like, I used to tell people when I would see people not addicted to work, I would be like, oh, it would be nice to do that. But of course, it was safer to stay in my lane wherever I felt, where it was comfortable and validated. Sure, like you said, it was uncomfortable to change because I had to change my habits and also find validation within, not just from seeking it from external, right? Which was my job then. Um, and I think you're right. It's not that it's hard, it's that it's super, super uncomfortable, challenging to look at yourself in the mirror and to do the work to change it and to do those little steps. Yes, uncomfortable. But is it possible? Absolutely. I tell people all the time, like, people always are like, oh, well, they want a quick fix and they want it within 3 months. And they're trying to overestimate what they can pack in the year. This year is going to be my year. And I'm like, but you don't stop and think about, instead of thinking about 1 year, think about 5 years, right? I mean, 5 years is still a drop in the bucket in our lives. We still have, like decades to live. So why are we so worried about it all happening in 1 year? 5 is where that could be your grandiose vision. And then you're like, okay, in 4, in 3, and in 2, and 1. But you're already taking the steps. You're doing it manageably, right? You're doing it little by little, taking the whole thing. And then that 5-year thing is super attainable. But we always want this instant fix. And even through our day, some people tell me, but how do you actually spend the time working on your purpose every day? I'm like, it's intentional. It's the first thing I do after I have my practices. It's the first thing I do every single day. And I do not give myself a reward until the end because just like you were mentioning, procrastinations are types of addictions too. Some people it's like they procrastinate on social media, and they have to be on it all day, or they binge eat or chocolate. There's so many. I've seen with all my clients all different types, right? And all ranges. But if you can like switch it, like I'm gonna reward myself and with something that's good for me, right? Change it from like instantly having to forget something, to pain, to remove the pain. Instead, switch it to I'm gonna reward myself for working on myself, for going on this, right? You can change the patterns in your brain and you can change the way it reacts to things. And it's not, I agree with you. It's not that it's hard, it just takes time and it takes patience and it takes that stretching yourself, which in the end, though, you're going to reduce all that stress and anxiety that you have right now. I don't think there's anyone living, with in that life where they're taking the painkillers, whatever that is, they're not happy, right? It's about muting it. So in the end, you're full of stress and anxiety every day. That's not living. So you got to push it in. Like, do you want to like live day by day, or do you want to live?
Exactly. And it's so funny because you made me think of when I was getting sober and that first year, they were like, well, you can't change anything. So, I went to Baskin Robbins every day because that was my thing. And I just went and got one scoop of ice cream. But then when I got like a big milestone, like 1 month, I'd go to like Marshall's or TJ Maxx and go to the clearance rack
Yeah,
and buy myself just nothing, extravagant, but maybe $20. I just buy myself something that maybe a
exactly.
lipstick, right? Maybe a pair of earrings on the clearance that I just made were pretty for me, but something that was like a reward to myself. I love that you
Exactly.
mentioned that because we do need that
You
to
do.
create my limitless life, right?
Exactly, and we don't celebrate enough. That's the thing. Like a lot of times we're looking for those painkillers because it gives us a boost of endorphins for a short amount of time. But they don't realize the power of the endorphin that comes from the reward and the celebration. And when you're actually doing it, it's so much greater than the painkiller because it doesn't come with the guilt afterwards. It doesn't come with any judgment that you're doing with yourself afterwards, right? This only comes with gratification when it's a reward because it's an accomplishment, a celebration, it's alignment with you. Like I have a celebration calendar every day. I celebrate something that I did in alignment with me, and that's what made my book so enjoyable to write because I wrote down like I came up with a sentence today, a word today, a paragraph, the cover, the this, right? And every single day I celebrated it. So when people were like, "Oh, aren't you so glad it finished?" I'm like, "Well, I enjoyed the whole journey." And
Oh,
that
I
wasn't
love that.
yeah, and that wasn't like that when I was chasing the degrees and the job because I was only waiting till I got the thing. I remember when I got my PhD, I was like, I only when I got the title. And I remember feeling so empty because I didn't celebrate it. I just like went at it, went at it, went at it, without like motivation. And when I get there, I'm like, I feel so empty because I was waiting for this big moment and nothing. And I think that happens to a lot of people with a lot of big events that we blow up instead of celebrating the whole time, right? I should have celebrated the whole thing. So with my book, I'm like, no, I'm going to celebrate the whole thing. And then the whole thing became a great journey for me.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that, Esther. It's like so amazing because it's true. We all think that, oh, I can only award myself. I'm being selfish.
Yep.
I'm being extravagant with myself. It's like crazy that we don't celebrate our accomplishments each and every day because who knows how long we're going to be here.
Exactly. And then that's why we look towards those other things because we're like, oh, those make us feel good instead of rewarding ourselves with the things that are good for us, that are great and that we do deserve it.
Oh, I absolutely love this. Now, how did Be Act Change come about? And your husband is your partner, and tell us about that.
Yeah. So Be Act Change came to me because the work I do is that first you have to be you, right? And that's what I mean about like owning your power. Who are you? Being intentionally, authentically yourself, right? Like people come to me with their fancy titles, those things. I'm like, that's wonderful, but I still don't know who you are. What is everything you bring and you've been bringing your whole life regardless of what age you are or where you're being. So first it's like being you and having that freedom to be you. And then the act is the action. So we've been talking about, right? You got to act. You got to do it. I mean, I'm not the thing like, okay, now you know your purpose and you're not going to do anything with it. No, now we got to intentionally move every day and align your what you feel inside with your outside, create new expectations with everyone around you. You know, a lot of times we're like, oh my God, but I don't want to do that. And I don't want to say no. And I'm scared to say no. Well, it starts with conversations because they're used to seeing you a certain way. So you got to transition people to who you are now. So that's a lot of the action. And then change has changed the world because I really think if we're all authentic and we're all taking these actions that are in full alignment with us, that the world can all see, we can change the world together. So that's where that whole acronym came. Yeah.
I love that. And what do you guys do together? Do you have
Yeah.
do you speaking in like tell us what you do and how people can find you and about your book and everything?
Yeah, and so yeah, I didn't mention so my husband Paul, like we're in business together, which is amazing because we actually met working.
Ugh.
And that's how we fell in love. We were first friends and then we met it and we're both recovered, I would say recovering people pleasers, right? It's always a journey. And have had the same type of journey, you know, like as immigrants, as everything.
So
And
wait a minute, I want to ask, and hate to
yeah,
interrupt, and people know that I hate to
sure.
interrupt. I always let people go.
I don't mind.
Okay, so what were you, so you both, I read this on both of your bios that you were diplomats. Tell us about
Yes.
that. That is so interesting.
Yeah, we actually met interviewing for the job. That's where we met. And we were actually we first started as academics that were put into government as advisors, and then I don't
For the
know, I just
US
kind of knew.
government or
Yeah,
for
U.S. government. And
okay.
I saw him across the room, and it was like hundreds of people, and I was like, I just know I need to get to know him. And at that time, it wasn't in a romantic sense. I just felt this spiritual energy between us. And we became friends and started working together, and then we fell in love. And then we joined the diplomatic service but it was a diplomatic service on the international development side. Like we both love to give to the world, and so we joined it, and we lived in Nicaragua, Jamaica, Dominican Republic, and really about even changing the way you do development. Like the traditional model is these big countries, US, Europe, whatever, come into developing countries and are like, I'm here to save you. You need this. And my whole thing that I brought and my husband we brought to this new thought leadership was, have you ever thought about let's go listen to them first and let's hear what they have to say and what their needs are. And then based on all these needs, we can then align it with with other country, US government or other countries with what they're looking for and make matches. But that way it's based on what the community needs. And that's going to be more sustainable because we're fulfilling their mission, vision, and purpose of both people, right? Instead of like, and it's like partnership, it's listening. And that's the way I see everything, right? Like if you're in a marriage, the reason why we have such a great relationship is not because, oh, it's automatic. It's like we do the same exercise together. What's your legacy? What's my legacy? What's our common mission and vision in this world? How can I support your aspirations? You support mine. And we have two kids. With the kids, we do the same. Like, what is they already know this at first grade. So
Yeah.
like what is it that they want and see in the world? How can we together create a family dynamic that benefits us all? And just so it's the same model in communities and countries and individuals and people, right? And so in that line of work, in like my last position in the Dominican Republic, like I was able to raise from 700,000 to $100 million on this principle, just being like, we're going to fund what they need and make those matches that are win-win for everyone. That's going to make a difference. And it works, right? And so, but that, like I said, I made a lot of impact in that job, but I still felt like even in that job, it was a struggle and resistance because people were like, well, how do I listen? And that's when I realized this problem was so much more global because they were like, I've never been listened to. I've always been told I am an engineer, I am an architect. So that's what I got to go do for someone. And the thought of, I'm going to step back from my title and listen to them, understand their needs, and then maybe refer them to someone else was really difficult because especially in the United States, we value titles so much and we put all value over what you study, right? But there's this whole value around listening. If we would just listen to people and support them, how and then link them to someone else who has the how to help them. That's powerful. So that's the work we used to do. But now, but then we left at like that service for our company. And we do still do some stuff in international development, but the way we see it is this is a bigger movement, to help people to listen to themselves. And if they can listen to themselves and unpack this, they're going to be more available to listen to others. And it's going to create this whole ripple effect worldwide.
I absolutely love everything you just said. And all I could think of was like, Americans and their titles. And, I'm a doctor, so I'm God. I'm a doctor because I'm a lawyer. I mean, I'm God because I'm a lawyer. I'm a God because I have my PhD. And it's all ego, 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 ego. And there's no room to listen. And I think that as we've gotten older, I mean, I think since the pandemic, I don't know why it's been so dramatic, but I'm watching just where we are today from where we were just like 4 years ago is completely different. And there's so much darkness and no one can listen to anyone else. Like when we went to Afghanistan, we just go and we stay there for 40 years and nobody talks to anybody and makes any plans of how we're going to extricate, how we're going to make sure you're better. Instead, it's just crazy. It's all about these guns and stuff and how we're going to blow each other up instead of like, wait a minute, we have to listen. I love what you're doing. It's amazing.
Thanks. Yes, that's what we do. So we do speaking, coaching, workshops, strategies. I mean, but really in that alignment, right? That really centered around people who want to make change, make a difference. I mean, and it goes from even smaller scale on a team and a job, right? Like if they're not listening to each other, it creates toxic work environments, right? So a lot of our stuff too is like, okay, let's start from basics. Why did everyone join this job to begin with? Like let's all share a common mission and vision of where we want to go in 5 years. Let's unpack everyone's strengths regardless of title. And let's like find joy and like the little things. Like we don't have to live in a world of gossip and competition. There is no competition because we all have a uniqueness. It's just a matter of sure, some of us have more training and more skills, but we also have these other skills that's always been innately ours that we should value too, right? And I'm coming from a place that I have, right, the title, but it's I see that everyone has something, and the teams I've led, I've unpacked everyone's strengths regardless of where they are in the thing. There's a leader in you, regardless of where you are in the strata and the hierarchy or anything. Everyone can make a difference. Everyone can have that. You don't need to wait for that or even go after that if it's not aligned with you.
Oh my gosh. I just have to tell you, for one, your mom gave you the perfect name. Because I don't know if anybody knows Esther from the Bible, but Esther from the Bible is like my favorite. And you are doing what she's doing and just making differences all over the place. And the name of your book, so people know, I'm going to tell you though, if you're listening, I'm going to have in the description links that all you have to do is push the link in the description and it's going to take you right to Esther's and Paul's website. And then it's also going to take you right to her book. But just tell us what the name is, just in case somebody's just
Yeah.
listening and they want to go right to Amazon while they're on the listening to.
Yeah, sure. So my book's called Creating Your Limitless Life, and it's part memoir and part how to self-guide and self-help. But I also have a workbook as well. So both links are great because the workbooks also stand alone. So if you want to just do all the exercises of like finding your purpose, mapping it out, I even have a celebration calendar like we talked about. Everything's in that workbook that you can take on and just start on this journey, just go through the pages. It's all there, all the exercises.
Oh my gosh, I absolutely love it. Thank you again for coming on. It has been such a pleasure listening to you and getting to know you. And if you guys are listening, please go look at the description because again, you can go reach Esther in all of her books. I mean, this has been amazing. I want to get your book. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to go see what it has to say and how it can help others. We need to come together today and make it more of an us world than a them and me and I. It's just amazing. And just, I love everything you talked about. It's been real pleasure getting to know you. If you're listening, everybody, reach out. Do not be alone. You're going to have all these links. You don't have to do this alone. I promise you. It sounds like Esther's got everything there so easily set up for you that it's like a no-brainer. So until next time, everybody, keep getting busy, living soba. Bye, everybody.
Bye.